My wife has been unfaithful with a man her mother introduced her to, and now she's pregnant. She's pleading with me to take on the role of the father. The dining room of the Millers shimmered under the gentle glow of luxurious candles as Ethan observed his mother-in-law, Linda, delicately adjusting the silverware he had just aligned. 6 months into his marriage, these Sunday dinners still resembled job interviews, and he felt as though he was perpetually falling short. He locked eyes with Rachel from across the table, her smile strained at the edges, even with the champagne that Linda had uncorked for the celebration. Thus, Linda remarked, the crystal glass held aloft like a maestro's baton. Yesterday at the club, Bradley Prescott inquired about you, Rachel. Do you recall him? His investment firm has just secured that charming little building in the heart of downtown. Ethan's grip on his water glass intensified as Rachel's smile wavered briefly before it pieced itself back together. She extended her hand beneath the table, her fingers quivering gently as they brushed against his weathered palm. Mom, Rachel said softly. I'm certain Ethan would prefer to discuss something different. Ethan Carter cleaned his hands on the shop rag, smearing fresh streaks of grease over the old ones. After 3 hours of meticulous investigation, the Porsche engine before him had at last revealed its hidden truths. Not a bad car, the dealer had proclaimed, beyond repair. Have you discovered it? Mike's voice resonated from the far side of the garage, bouncing off the lifts that surrounded us. Ethan nodded, raising a small, contorted fragment of metal aloft. Retainer for the valve spring. Curiously, it managed to bend yet remained unbroken. It produces quite a ruckus, yet remains undetected in the diagnostics. He extended his hand into the engine bay, his roughened fingers maneuvering with unexpected finesse. It was in this aspect of his work that he found the greatest joy. The instant when shattered pieces found their unity once more, achieved through the simple yet profound act of grasping their inner workings. Isn't that a friend of Rachel's mother? With a wave of his hand toward the car, Mike inquired. The individual who was adamant about conversing with the owner while you were attempting to assist her? Ethan's smile was strained. The exact same. Mrs. Harrison felt a wave of disappointment wash over her as the realization struck that the owner and the mechanic were, in fact, the same individual. I have no doubt she will be overjoyed when you accomplish what the dealer was unable to do. Perhaps. With practiced precision, Ethan tightened the final bolt. It holds no significance. The car remains indifferent to the identity of its mechanic. It simply demands to be repaired correctly. He took a step back, taking in the entirety of his creation. Miller's Automotive may not have been the largest establishment in the area, yet over the course of 5 years, he transformed it from the ground up into a well-regarded enterprise. It would fail to leave an impression on Linda Prescott Wilson. Nothing about him suggested otherwise, yet it belonged to him, unencumbered and transparent. Ethan cast a fleeting glance at his watch. Half a year into their marriage, he found himself hurrying home each day as if they were still in the thrilling early days of courtship. Her memory evoked a blend of comfort and a subtle hint of discomfort. Recently, a shift had occurred, imperceptible yet present, akin to an engine that hums with a slight discord. Would you like some more roast, Ethan? Linda inquired, the serving fork hovering above the platter. The dining room of her colonial revival home enveloped Ethan in an atmosphere reminiscent of a museum, where every object beckoned to be explored, yet an unspoken rule lingered: nothing should be disturbed. Thank you, Ethan remarked, extending his plate toward her. In the half-year following the wedding, these Sunday dinners had evolved into a familiar pattern of understated class conflict. Linda placed a meticulously cut slice upon his plate. Rachel shares that business is thriving. Engaging in such practical work must bring a deep sense of satisfaction. Ethan sensed the soft brush of Rachel's foot against his beneath the table, their silent signal to move on. It is, he stated with a quiet certainty. I have just completed the remarkable task of reconstructing an engine that the dealer had deemed irreparable. How resourceful, Linda responded, her smile strained. In the realm of resources, it's worth noting that Richard Bartlett's son, the one associated with the Bartletts, Rachel, has recently ascended to partner at his law firm. At just 32, he's already raking in a 7-figure salary. Rachel took a moment to clear her throat. Mother, we have discussed this matter. What is this? I'm merely engaging in dialogue. Linda savored her wine, the rich flavors dancing on her palate. Oh, have I mentioned that the charity gala for the Children's Hospital is happening next weekend? This year, the Prescott family is taking the lead in chairing the event. Bradley has achieved extraordinary feats with his father's investment firm. Ethan's jaw clenched at the mere utterance of Bradley Prescott's name. Linda's conversations often brought up the man's name with an unsettling regularity. It sounds delightful, Rachel remarked. But Ethan and I have plans for next weekend. Linda's eyebrows lifted ever so slightly. Do you really? How unfortunate. Bradley inquired directly about your presence. It seems he still holds onto the memories of your summer spent together at the country club. Ethan observed his wife's expression intently. A delicate hue graced her cheeks as she focused intently on her plate. That was ages ago, Mom. Prior to embarking on the college journey. As Linda continued, she folded her napkin with meticulous precision. It would be beneficial for Ethan to connect with some of these individuals. Connections hold immense significance. Indeed. Ethan's gaze locked with Rachel's from across the table, where he discerned a blend of remorse and desperation reflected in her eyes. The silent plea was unmistakable. Kindly, for my benefit. It's just one evening, Rachel remarked later that night, her fingers anxiously gliding over the embossed invitation. In their kitchen, humble yet distinctly theirs, they found solace, a stark contrast to the grandeur of Linda's showcase home. The invitation to the charity gala stood in stark contrast to the worn countertop, resembling an orchid amidst a sea of vegetables. Ethan rested against the refrigerator, his arms folded across his chest. Your mother has been advocating for Bradley Prescott to you since long before our paths crossed. Do you genuinely believe this is merely a matter of charity? Rachel let out a sigh, acknowledging the public event dedicated to children's cancer research. It's not as if she's orchestrating a blind date for us. I'm merely attempting to reveal to you what you might be overlooking by choosing to be with me. Ethan's voice betrayed a sharpness he couldn't conceal. That seems unjust. Rachel placed the invitation gently on the table. My mother is a remarkable woman. Challenging. This holds significance for her, and truthfully, it holds significance for me as well. During my college years, I dedicated my time to volunteering at that hospital. Ethan examined the contours of his wife's face. Rachel had always struggled to conceal her emotions. It was among the many things he cherished about her. In that moment, he perceived not only a heartfelt commitment to the charity, but also an undercurrent of something more profound. A sense of anxiety that felt exaggerated. Surely there's a deeper layer to this, isn't there? He inquired softly. Rachel paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. My father shall be present. Since the separation, communication between him and Mom has been sparse, yet he remains a significant contributor. Your presence by my side as we confront them both would hold great significance for me. Ethan sensed his defenses beginning to wane. Rachel seldom sought his assistance, particularly when it involved the intricate web of her family relationships. With a resigned sigh, he uncrossed his arms. One evening filled with awkward exchanges, a costly rubber chicken, yet I refused to don a tuxedo. Joy illuminated Rachel's features as she approached him. Why sincere gratitude? Rest assured, the tux is nothing to fret over. Father departed, leaving his belongings in the wake of his departure. My mother was adamant that I bring it back for you. Ethan's half-smile lingered on his lips, yet it failed to illuminate the depths of his eyes. The notion of donning Rachel's father's forsaken tuxedo for an occasion where Bradley Prescott would be present loomed over him, a scenario he struggled to define. Yet, the gratitude shimmering in Rachel's eyes as she pressed her lips to his nudged his worries aside. At this moment, the ballroom of the Westbrook Hotel shimmered as if it were a scene plucked from a fantastical realm. Crystal chandeliers illuminated the room with prismatic light, casting a mesmerizing glow over silk-draped tables, as a string quartet serenaded the atmosphere with Vivaldi's enchanting melodies in the corner. Ethan adjusted the borrowed tuxedo, the sleeves grazing his wrists a tad too high. The attire resembled a costume, which he assumed it indeed was. Stop fidgeting, Rachel whispered, her fingers tightening around his arm. She appeared breathtaking in a midnight blue gown that had seemingly emerged from her mother's carefully curated collection for unexpected occasions. "You appear quite dashing." "I resemble the valet who neglected to return the car," Ethan murmured, yet a smile graced his lips for her benefit. Linda appeared beside them, a champagne flute elegantly cradled in her hand. "My dear Rachel, the members of the hospital board are situated just over yonder. Do you recall Dr. Winters from your time volunteering? He has been inquiring about your well-being." Her gaze flicked to Ethan, a masterclass in indifference. "Ethan, would you be all right if I took my daughter for some introductions?" The bar stands quietly in its place. Before Ethan could utter a word, Linda had whisked Rachel away, her hand possessively resting on the young woman's elbow. He observed them navigate the throng, noting how effortlessly Rachel adapted to this setting, her posture aligning with the atmosphere, her laughter morphing into a melodic echo rather than a true expression. They moved through the crowd, and the throng yielded before them as if the very elements had shifted. "Miller, is that correct?" A man with silver hair, clad in a pristine tuxedo, materialized beside him. "My name is Richard Harrison. Did you repair my wife's Porsche?" Ethan nodded, a sense of appreciation washing over him for the well-known landscape. "Indeed, sir. How is it performing?" "As if it were just created. Superior to its original state." "Indeed." Harrison softened his tone, yet Caroline would sooner perish than concede that a nearby shop had outshone the dealer. For a quarter of an hour, Ethan engaged in a pleasant dialogue about engines and maintenance schedules, until Harrison was summoned by his wife, who skillfully evaded direct eye contact with Ethan, even though she stood merely 2 feet away. Ethan moved among groups of individuals who appeared to sense, without a word, that he was an outsider. Conversations faltered briefly as he drew near, only to rise in intensity as he moved beyond them. Twice he glimpsed Rachel from across the room, now encircled by a group that included Linda and a tall, sandy-haired man who lingered uncomfortably close to his wife. He presumed it was Bradley Prescott. Every time Ethan attempted to reach them, the crowd inexplicably swelled, or a server would materialize with a tray right in his way. Upon arriving at the very place where they had once lingered, he found only emptiness. Ethan meticulously combed through the main ballroom. A glass of untouched scotch cradled in his hand. 20 minutes had slipped away since Rachel vanished alongside her mother and Bradley. Couples twirled gracefully on the dance floor, while groups gathered around elevated tables, yet his wife was conspicuously absent from the scene. "Are you in search of someone?" A young woman dressed in catering black and white offered a sympathetic nod. "My wife," Ethan declared. "A dress of blue, cascading over dark tresses? Ah, Mrs. Miller. I believe I caught a glimpse of her making her way toward the East Wing. A secluded showcase of hospital photography awaits. They are showcasing the donors." Ethan adhered to her instructions, navigating through a carpeted corridor that diverged from the central gathering. The hallway fell into a hushed stillness. The illumination softened to a gentle glow. Framed black and white photographs of smiling children in hospital beds adorned the walls, likely representing patients aided by the charity, he surmised. He moved through a succession of intimate chambers where clusters of individuals engaged in spirited discussions about funding allocations, all while sipping their drinks. There is no trace of Rachel. The corridor arched gracefully, guiding one toward a wing that appeared to be shrouded in even greater seclusion. The melodies from the ballroom gradually dissipated into silence. At the distant end of the hallway, Ethan caught a fleeting glimpse of movement. 2 silhouettes glided through the entrance, one cloaked in a deep midnight blue, the other revealing the sandy locks he had observed before. Rachel and Bradley. Linda kept her vigil close by, stealing glances at her watch, before she pivoted and strode down a different corridor. Ethan stood still, his thoughts swirling as he sought out benign justifications, perhaps a private tour or a business conversation. Yet, the stealth of their actions and Linda's vigilant gaze hinted at a carefully planned scheme. He moved toward the door, but then hesitated. What might he exclaim if he were to suddenly enter? What might unfold before his eyes? The ambiguity anchored him, allowing doubt to slink into his mind. Rachel would never, not with her mother's chosen match, Not after half a year of wedlock, not intentionally, would she? As Ethan approached the door, he found it ajar and devoid of any presence. The events that transpired within had reached their finality. He lingered in the quiet corridor, the faint strains of music from the ballroom serving as a taunting echo of the festivities unfolding in his absence. "You vanished for nearly an hour," Ethan remarked the following morning. He maintained a steady tone as he filled the coffee cup in their kitchen. The gala program rested on the counter between them, its polished cover displaying beaming donors beneath the emblem of the Children's Hospital. Rachel lifted her gaze from her toast, the shadows under her eyes hinting at a night of restless sleep, mirroring his own struggles with slumber. "I mentioned it before. My mother insisted on introducing me to each board member and significant donor. The experience drained every ounce of energy from me. Is Bradley Prescott included?" A fleeting shadow danced across her features, so ephemeral that he could have easily dismissed it as a figment of his imagination. Indeed, Bradley was present. He serves on the investment committee for the hospital endowment. Ethan placed his mug down with deliberate care. "I noticed you enter a room with him, in the East Wing." Rachel's cheeks tinged with color, yet her voice held firm. "He wished to unveil the renovation plans for the children's oncology floor to me. He believed I could be intrigued, given my past experience volunteering there." "Your mother was standing guard." "My mother was networking, Ethan." Rachel extended her hand across the counter towards him. "I understand the appearance, but I assure you it was entirely innocent. Bradley's engaged, for heaven's sake." Ethan yearned to trust her. The options presented themselves as a torment too great to bear. "I simply despise the way they treat you," Rachel pressed on, her gaze becoming tender. "Last night, my mother was utterly unmanageable. I should have stayed by your side." He tightened his grip on her hand, observing how deftly she had redirected the conversation from her absence to her mother's actions. "It's perfectly all right," he remarked. Not due to its inherent nature, but rather because he required it to exist that way. The following 3 weeks unfolded, marked by an undercurrent of tension woven into the fabric of their daily lives. Rachel appeared to be a paradox, simultaneously more engaged and more aloof, arriving with his beloved takeout while dedicating extended hours to her marketing career. She glanced at her phone with increasing regularity, carefully positioning the screen to keep it hidden from view. On 2 occasions, Ethan stirred from sleep to find the space beside him vacant, only to uncover her presence in the shadowy living room, asserting that she was battling insomnia. As dawn broke, Ethan discovered her in the bathroom, her complexion ghostly and her body trembling, a plastic test stick gripped tightly in her hand. "Ethan," she murmured, her eyes shimmering with a blend of trepidation and feigned delight. "I'm pregnant." He gazed at her, a chilling awareness unfurling within his chest. Rachel was acutely aware, just as he was, that this was an impossibility. Their decision to undergo a vasectomy, a choice made in unison prior to their marriage, had been validated as successful several months back. Yet there she remained, tears welling in her eyes, clutching the proof of a treachery that she was unaware he had already grasped. "Ethan," Rachel murmured once more, her gaze filled with a blend of trepidation and feigned exhilaration. "Did you hear what I said? I'm pregnant." The pregnancy test quivered in her grasp, its pink lines staring back at him with an accusatory intensity. Ethan gazed at it, speechless, while his thoughts spiraled through the realm of medical impossibilities. "But that's," he finally managed to say, his voice barely a whisper. "That's not possible," Rachel said, her smile wavering for just a moment before it returned, carefully crafted and poised. "We believed the vasectomy would be the end of it. Yet here we are, faced with the unexpected." She took his hand gently. "The doctor always mentioned there was a slight possibility of failure. Don't you recall?" Ethan recalled with clarity. A small portion of a percentage. Dr. Matthews had articulated his thoughts with precision. Virtually unattainable, yet in the realm of medicine, absolutes are a rarity. Just 6 months prior, Ethan's follow-up tests had revealed a complete absence of sperm count. Utter triumph. A truth that Rachel was equally aware of, just as he was. "We ought to consult Dr. Matthews," he remarked thoughtfully, observing her reaction closely. To confirm everything's okay. A fleeting shadow of panic flitted across Rachel's face before she nodded with an eagerness that felt almost forced. Certainly. Isn't this truly remarkable? A miracle, truly? Ethan compelled himself to lay his hand over hers, to smile as if his universe wasn't crumbling around him, as if he held a flicker of hope that this could indeed be his offspring. It was as if he couldn't quite grasp the implications of that fateful night when she vanished with Bradley at the gala. Incredible, he repeated. The word hollow. Rachel enveloped him in her embrace, her body trembling with a mix of what could only be described as relief, fear, or perhaps a blend of both. Ethan gazed at their reflection in the bathroom mirror, his eyes tracing the contours of her shoulder, a beautiful moment captured, where expectant parents revel in the joy of life-altering news. Only he possessed the vision to discern the deception. Ethan lingered in his truck, parked outside Dr. Matthews' office the next afternoon, his gaze fixed on the structure before him. He had kept this appointment a secret from Rachel. The receptionist was taken aback to receive a call from him instead of the anticipated mother. Yet she managed to accommodate him in her schedule. Ethan, Dr. Matthews welcomed him with a friendly smile, motioning toward a chair in his office instead of directing him to an exam room. What brings you here today? Is everything going well with the vasectomy? My wife is pregnant, Ethan declared, cutting straight to the heart of the matter. The doctor's demeanor transitioned from warm to meticulously impassive. I understand, and you have reservations regarding the efficacy of the vasectomy. I must understand if there exists even the slightest chance that it belongs to me. Dr. Matthews opened Ethan's file on his computer, examining it intently for a moment. Your 6-month follow-up revealed a complete absence of sperm, with 2 consecutive clear samples, he said, looking up. While I prefer to avoid speaking in definitives, the likelihood would be remarkably slim. Unique beyond compare? It's akin to winning the lottery twice while simultaneously being struck by lightning. The doctor's gaze was both empathetic and unwavering. I apologize, Ethan. In the realm of medicine, certainties are a rare commodity, yet this stands as one of the closest we can approach. Ethan nodded, his suspicions validated with an almost surgical accuracy. I appreciate your honesty. In the parking lot, Ethan remained still in his truck for a full 10 minutes. He then made his way to the pharmacy, where he selected another pregnancy test, opting for a different brand than the one Rachel had chosen, seeking reassurance in the uncertainty. That evening, he upheld a meticulous facade of normalcy around Rachel. He noted that he would be visiting his accountant's office to talk about taxes, a reasonable explanation for his absence. She appeared to find solace in his serene embrace of the pregnancy, engaging in light conversation about nursery hues as they busied themselves in the kitchen. Once Rachel succumbed to slumber, Ethan quietly entered the bathroom and retrieved the test she had discarded in the wastebasket. With meticulous attention, he examined the item, recording the brand and serial number before delicately enveloping it in tissue and securing it within a plastic bag. He opened the medicine cabinet, discovering exactly what he anticipated: an empty box holding 2 tests, not just one. Within the confines of his home office, he carefully tucked the bagged test into his desk drawer, right next to Dr. Matthews' written statement regarding his vasectomy status. He opened his laptop and began a meticulous search through their shared accounts, scanning for unusual calls, unexplained expenses, anything that could uncover the depth of the betrayal. After 2 hours of relentless searching, a pattern began to take shape. Since the charity gala, Rachel found herself reaching out to her mother with an intensity that had tripled, each call a thread weaving their connection tighter. 3 days later, as Ethan busied himself loading the dishwasher, Rachel's phone emitted a soft chime, signaling an incoming call. It lay abandoned on the counter, forgotten in the midst of her shower. Linda's name illuminated the screen. Ethan paused briefly, weighing his response before speaking. Is that you, Rachel? Linda's voice resonated with the sharp command he had learned to identify. It is Ethan, Linda. Rachel is currently enjoying a refreshing shower. A moment of stillness. I shall return the call at a later time. I'll let her know you called, Ethan said, but Linda had already disconnected the line. Upon placing the phone on the table, a notification materialized before him. Your voicemail is currently full. Rachel often took great care in ensuring that her messages were deleted with precision. Intrigued, Ethan pressed the voicemail icon and no password needed. In their marriage, an open phone policy had always been a fundamental principle. Up until now, the latest saved message dated back 3 weeks, the day following the gala. The sound of Linda's voice. Rachel, please reach out to me at once. Bradley harbors worries regarding the potential complications arising from your conversation. It is essential that we approach our forthcoming actions with careful consideration and planning. Ethan's grip on the phone grew firmer. He activated the subsequent saved message. Bradley's voice, taut and whispering. It's me, M. Your mother shared your number with me. Honestly, I never anticipated that events would unfold in such a manner. Clarissa and I remain engaged. I am unable to do that. It is essential that we discuss the implications of what may occur if. The message was abruptly interrupted. Ethan meticulously listened to each saved voicemail, his heart constricting with every new discovery. The last message, penned by Rachel for her own reflection, a method she employed to capture her musings during drives, proved to be the most heart-wrenching. Mother knows best. This is the sole path forward. Ethan remains blissfully unaware that the child is not his own. The timing is just right. I simply must persuade him that the vasectomy was unsuccessful. He adores me. He will trust my words, for he has no choice but to do so. Ethan placed the phone back exactly in the spot he had discovered it. His hands remained steady, yet a part of him lay in ruins, irreparably broken. He made his way to the office, unlocking his computer with a sense of purpose as he began to navigate through their shared cloud storage. Within Rachel's folder lay a backup of text messages from her previous phone. He discovered a series of conversations with Linda that unfolded over months, intricately orchestrating Rachel's chance encounters with Bradley. The dialogue revealed Linda's cunning manipulations, Rachel's initial reluctance, and her eventual acquiescence. The charity gala was meticulously orchestrated to unite Rachel and Bradley, all while Ethan was kept engaged in another realm. Ethan shut the laptop, enveloped in a profound silence, as the undeniable truth pressed heavily upon him. Tomorrow night would be Sunday, the time for their customary dinner at Linda's home. Yesterday, the invitation made its arrival. Rachel casually mentioned that her mother had some exciting news to share. He had come to understand the nature of that news, and he was fully aware of the response he would offer. After years spent mending shattered machines, Ethan came to realize that certain things could never be restored once the foundation of trust had been irrevocably fractured. Yet, the harsh reality, no matter how excruciating, was always more desirable than an existence constructed upon deception. He reached for his phone and sent a message to Rachel, who was spending time with a friend, anticipating the delightful dinner at your mother's tomorrow. I have some news to convey as well. Ethan faced the bathroom mirror, his reflection stark and devoid of a smile. Sunday evening descended upon us, as certain as the pull of gravity itself. In just 2 hours, they would find themselves gathered around Linda's exquisite dining table, where Rachel's pregnancy announcement would surely be greeted with a symphony of surprise and joy, artfully arranged for the occasion. He adjusted his collar, a figure readying himself for battle instead of a mere meal. Within the confines of his pocket lay a small USB drive, a repository of all that mattered. The doctor's statement, Rachel's voicemails, the text exchanges between mother and daughter, tangible proof to challenge the forthcoming denials. Yesterday, he felt the pull to face Rachel by himself, to offer her a singular opportunity to reveal the truth before her mother could step in. Yet, within her growing desperation to reclaim a sense of normalcy, her efforts to bring home his favorite dessert, her playful suggestions for names of a baby that wasn't there, he felt his determination solidify. The web of deceit was not spun solely by Rachel. Linda was the mastermind. Bradley played the role of the eager supporter, while Rachel took on the task of execution. They were meant to confront the truth side by side. Ethan slipped his phone and car keys into his pocket, catching Rachel's voice from downstairs urging that they should be on their way shortly. His hands remained unwavering, even as the storm raged within his chest. For weeks, His existence had been constructed upon a foundation of shifting sands. Tonight, he would rediscover his footing, not through the preservation of his marriage, but by restoring his sense of self-worth. "I'm coming," he replied, his voice surprisingly steady. The figure in the mirror bore an uncanny resemblance to himself, yet something essential had shifted within. In his eyes, a newfound clarity shone, a hard-won certainty that the truth, no matter how painful, was far more desirable than the comfort of lies. As Linda passed the serving dish of roasted potatoes, she remarked, "Rachel mentioned you have some news to share too." The dining room shimmered, a testament to the meticulous care bestowed by generations of affluence. Could it be something related to the business, perhaps? Ethan received the dish, a composed smile gracing his lips. "Let us reserve that for after dinner." Rachel perched next to him, a bundle of nerves, even as she tried to engage in light-hearted chatter. Throughout the evening, she observed him with a keen eye, her anxiety palpable as she prepared to share the news of her pregnancy. Ethan wore a cheerful mask, all the while tallying the proof he held within .3 voicemails, 16 text messages, and a singular medical impossibility. "How's Bradley's engagement coming along?" Ethan inquired nonchalantly, helping himself to a serving of potatoes. Rachel shared that he is soon to be wed. Linda's fork lingered in midair, suspended between the plate and her lips. "I have a strong conviction that it is set to take place next spring. The Prescotts consistently host their ceremonies by the water at their charming lake house." "Intriguing," Ethan acknowledged with a nod. "So, Clarissa, that's the name we're working with, isn't it? She must be absolutely elated about the wedding plans." Rachel let out a soft cough, her hand instinctively moving towards her glass of water. "Ethan, Mother was sharing details about the upcoming fundraiser for her garden club next month. Perhaps we might—" With a firm clink, Linda set down her glass and interjected, "I believe it's time to delve into the thrilling news that Rachel brought up." Her gaze was filled with anticipation as she turned to her daughter. "My dear?" Rachel's smile held a fragile quality as she extended her hand toward Ethan beneath the table. "Mother, father." She cast a fleeting look at her stepfather, who had, as was his custom, kept his silence during the meal. "Ethan and I find ourselves in a moment of shared experience. We are expecting a little one. The meticulously planned responses commenced. Linda's gasp of delight, perfectly pitched, her husband's polite congratulations, and Rachel's rehearsed mix of shyness and excitement. Ethan permitted the scene to play out, observing the spectacle with a sense of aloof curiosity. "How wonderful!" Linda exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with triumph instead of tears. "I had a feeling that you both would bless me with lovely grandchildren." "One problem remains," Ethan murmured, his voice slicing through the revelry with precision. "It does not belong to me." The atmosphere became still, as if time itself had paused. Rachel's hand recoiled from his touch. "Ethan, could you clarify what you mean?" Rachel's voice trembled, caught in a tumultuous blend of indignation and fear. "I had a vasectomy 6 months ago," he said, his gaze fixed intently on Linda. "Rachel is aware of this. The results of my follow-up tests affirmed the success of the endeavor. Absence of sperm. It is beyond the realm of medical possibility for me to conceive a child." Linda's expression grew steely. "Medical procedures often encounter failure. How could you possibly accuse my daughter?" With the doctor's written statement in hand, Ethan continued with an air of composure, accompanied by a collection of intriguing documents, including the voicemail Rachel had left for herself, detailing her scheme to persuade me that the baby was mine, despite her awareness that it was not. Rachel's complexion faded to a ghostly hue. "You went through my phone? After you traversed the landscape of my existence?" "Indeed." Ethan extracted the USB drive from his pocket, setting it down upon the pristine tablecloth. "All that you seek is present. The exchanges between you and your mother orchestrating chance encounters with Bradley. The messages left in the wake of the gala. The moment of acquiring the pregnancy test." He glanced at Rachel, her eyes brimming with tears. "I offered you countless opportunities to reveal the truth. Each opportunity to speak truthfully about the events involving Bradley. Instead, you attempted to present his child as my own." Linda struck the table with her hand, the sound echoing in the room. This is utterly absurd. Rachel, disregard this. He exhibits unmistakable signs of instability. Rachel, why don't you play her the voicemail? Ethan suggested gently. The moment you captured your own voice declaring, and I quote, "Mom's right. This is the sole path forward." Ethan remains blissfully unaware that the child is not his own. Rachel concealed her face behind her hands, her shoulders trembling with the weight of her emotions. The meticulously crafted illusion of familial bliss shattered entirely, revealing nothing but the debris of unveiled realities. As Linda passed the serving dish of roasted potatoes, she remarked, "Rachel mentioned you have some news to share too." The dining room shimmered, a testament to the meticulous care bestowed by generations of affluence. Could it be something related to the business, perhaps? Ethan received the dish with a composed smile. Let us reserve that for after dinner. Rachel perched next to him, a bundle of nerves, even as she endeavored to engage in light-hearted banter. Throughout the evening, she observed him with a keen eye, her anxiety palpable as she prepared to share the news of her pregnancy. Ethan wore a charming smile, all the while tallying the proof he held within his mind. 3 voicemails, 16 text messages, 1 medical impossibility. How's Bradley's engagement coming along? Ethan inquired nonchalantly, helping himself to some potatoes. Rachel shared that he is soon to be wed. Linda's fork hovered in mid-air, suspended just shy of her lips. I think it's set for the upcoming spring. The Prescotts consistently host their ceremonies by the water at their charming lake house. Intriguing, Ethan acknowledged with a nod. So, Clarissa, that's her name, isn't it? She must be absolutely delighted with the wedding plans. Rachel let out a soft cough, her hand instinctively moving toward her glass of water. Ethan, Mother shared with me the details of her garden club's upcoming fundraiser next month. Perhaps we might— Indeed, Linda interjected, placing her glass down with a firm clink. It seems the moment has arrived to delve into the thrilling news that Rachel brought up. Her gaze was filled with anticipation as she turned to her daughter. My dear? Rachel's smile held a fragile quality as she extended her hand toward Ethan beneath the table. Mother? Father? She cast a fleeting look at her stepfather, who had, as was his custom, stayed resolutely silent during the meal. Ethan and I find ourselves in a moment of reflection. We are expecting a little one. The meticulously planned responses commenced. Linda's gasp of delight, perfectly pitched, her husband's polite congratulations, and Rachel's rehearsed mix of shyness and excitement. Ethan permitted the scene to play out, observing the spectacle with an air of dispassionate curiosity. How marvelous, Linda declared, her eyes sparkling with victory instead of sorrow. I had a feeling that the two of you would bless me with wonderful grandchildren. One issue lingered, Ethan murmured softly, his words slicing through the revelry with a sharp precision. It does not belong to me. The atmosphere became still, as if time itself had paused. Rachel's hand recoiled from his touch. Ethan, could you clarify what you mean? Rachel's voice trembled, caught in a tumultuous blend of indignation and fear. I had a vasectomy 6 months ago, he said, his gaze fixed intently on Linda. Rachel is aware of this. The results of my follow-up tests affirmed the success of the endeavor. Absence of sperm count. It is beyond the realm of medical possibility for me to conceive a child. Linda's expression turned steely. Medical procedures often encounter failure. How could you possibly accuse my daughter? You went through my phone? After you traversed the landscape of my existence. Indeed. Ethan extracted the USB drive from his pocket, setting it gently upon the pristine tablecloth. All is present. The exchange is shared between you and your mother as you orchestrate serendipitous encounters with Bradley. The messages left in the wake of the gala. The moment of acquiring the pregnancy test, he glanced at Rachel, her eyes brimming with tears. I offered you countless opportunities to be honest with me, each opportunity to speak truthfully about the events involving Bradley. Instead, you attempted to present his child as my own. Linda brought her hand down forcefully on the table. This is utterly absurd. Rachel, disregard this. He exhibits unmistakable signs of instability. Rachel, why don't you play her the voicemail? Ethan suggested gently. I in the kitchen. Rachel had placed his beloved coffee mug on the counter, pristine and prepared, a subtle act that tugged at his heartstrings. Ethan navigated the rooms with purpose, carefully stowing essentials into a duffel bag. In the bedroom, he hesitated before pulling open drawers that held the essence of his life. Socks meticulously sorted by color, t-shirts folded with care, the mundane artifacts of a life intertwined with another. When did the ordinary become so laden with significance? On Rachel's nightstand, the framed photo of their wedding day lay turned face down. A subtle mercy or perhaps a sign of shame. He found himself at a crossroads, unable to choose between the options before him. He sank onto the edge of the bed, a weight settling upon him as the reality of separation washed over him. For half a year, he had constructed his existence upon a base that had been inherently unstable from the outset. The betrayal extended far beyond Rachel's dealings with Bradley. It was the moment of awakening to the truth that what he had once held as reality was, in part, a mere illusion. What comes next? He murmured softly to the vacant space around him. Silence lingered in the air. Only the unyielding tick-tock of the bedside clock he had mended the previous year. Ethan's fingers glided across the quilt, a cherished creation from Rachel's grandmother, gifted to them on their wedding day. It dawned on him that the genuine aspects of their marriage, his love, his commitment, his daily choices, remained his own. Her betrayal could not obliterate the essence of who he had once been, even if it had fractured the unity they had shared with a decisive motion. He pulled the zipper of the duffel bag shut, the sound echoing a sense of conclusion. The silence had shifted from an accusatory weight to a palpable anticipation, poised to witness what he would create from the remnants before him. I nearly hesitated to call you, Ethan confessed, his fingers encircling the warm mug. The coffee shop exuded a serene ambience at mid-morning, with most tables vacant save for a handful of remote workers engrossed in their laptops. Opposite him, Frank Davidson inclined his head, his rugged visage folding into lines of comprehension. At the age of 62, Frank stood as Ethan's inaugural employer, a guiding mentor, and ultimately, a cherished friend. Yet you did. I was uncertain if anyone else could truly comprehend. Ethan gazed contemplatively into his cup of coffee. You have experienced something akin to this. It was 12 years ago that Frank confirmed. Caroline and her tennis coach, timeless, wouldn't you agree? Discovered the news of her pregnancy. He savored a deliberate sip. The distinction lay in the fact that we had shared 2 decades of marriage, rather than merely 6 months, and were navigating the complexities of raising 2 teenage children. Ethan lifted his gaze. What actions did you take, if I may ask? Precisely what you accomplished. Faced the reality. Subsequently, I found myself residing in my garage for 2 months, indulging in excessive drinking. It was Frank's unvarnished honesty that had consistently captivated Ethan. I would advise against that final section that I find myself at Mike's place, resting upon his couch for the night. Excellent. At this moment, the presence of others is essential for you. Frank inclined his body, drawing closer. Allow me to express a thought that may come across as peculiar. This betrayal, though excruciating, reveals itself as a peculiar gift. Ethan's jaw clenched with tension. A rather peculiar gift. Please be patient with me. What transpired between Rachel and her mother? It revealed the truth to you in your youth. Prior to children, prior to years devoted. For 2 decades, I shared my life with someone who regarded me merely as a source of support, rather than as an equal companion. Frank's gaze remained fixed on Ethan, unwavering and intense. You possess a rare treasure that eludes the grasp of many. A fresh start and an opportunity to create a life rooted in honesty. I loved her, Ethan murmured softly. I remain perplexed by her actions. Your perspective is shaping your thoughts on the matter. A person who holds truth in high regard. Rachel grew up under the influence of Linda, a woman who held appearance and status in the highest regard. Frank gave a nonchalant shrug. Individuals unveil their true selves through the decisions they make. Ethan. Rachel unveiled her true self. You did as well. Is it by choosing to walk away? By choosing to embrace the truth? Is it possible to cultivate enough self-respect to insist on truth? Frank's voice took on a gentler tone. The inquiry at hand is, what will you create with that self-respect? Ethan remained quiet for an extended pause. I'm still uncertain. There is no necessity for that. Frank stood, placing a hand on Ethan's shoulder with a firm yet friendly gesture. Simply assure me that you won't allow this to make you resentful. The most profound form of retribution against those who seek to belittle you is to thrive in their absence. As Frank departed for his appointment, Ethan lingered behind, cradling his now lukewarm coffee. The acrid taste lingered on his tongue, offering an unexpected clarity, akin to the depth of the conversation that had unfolded for the first time since the confrontation. He sensed a flicker of possibility awakening beneath the weight of his grief. That evening, Ethan found himself in the living room of what had now become merely his house. Following their discussion, Frank reached out to his daughter, the realtor, who verified that Rachel had indeed signed the documents to forfeit her claim on the property. This decision, likely swayed by Linda, seemed to favor a swift financial resolution over a drawn-out legal confrontation that would expose familial secrets. Ethan examined the area with a fresh perspective. Rachel had surprisingly taken very little. Just some clothes, a few personal items, and a handful of wedding gifts from her side. The furniture stood resolute, the art clung to the walls, the dishes nestled in the cabinets, as though she had endeavored to wipe away her presence while preserving the vessel of their shared existence. He commenced with a deliberate pace, taking her photographs from the mantel, gathering the scattered remnants of her presence into a box, not with anger or malice, but to establish a sense of clarity regarding what lingered and what had departed. His phone vibrated, signaling the arrival of a message. Rachel, may we engage in a conversation? I assure you, my request is not for reconciliation. I simply must clarify. Ethan gazed at the message, his mind swirling with thoughts, before finally crafting a response. There exists no explanation that could alter the course of events. I wish you all the best, yet it is essential for us to part ways completely. He placed the phone aside and resumed his work in the spare room that had served as their shared office. He meticulously cleared Rachel's desk, carefully boxing her papers and books. The vacant expanse appeared to exhale with newfound ease. Tomorrow, he planned to retrieve his drafting table from the garage, envisioning a dedicated workspace for the custom design projects he had longed to explore as he toiled. An intriguing buoyancy started to supplant the weightiness in his heart. Every vacant drawer and polished surface symbolized not merely absence, but potential. The house felt diminished in size without Rachel's presence, yet it exuded a newfound authenticity. By the stroke of midnight, he had meticulously rearranged the entire main floor. As Ethan settled onto the couch, a glass of water in hand, he came to understand the weight of Frank's words. Betrayal, he mused, truly was a painful gift. In the loss of the relationship he believed he desired, he discovered an unexpected treasure he hadn't realized he was missing. The liberty to construct a life rooted in reality instead of deception. On the morrow, he would find himself back in the garage, immersed once more in the labor that had perpetually anchored him. He would mend what others deemed irreparable, and in that process, perhaps he would find a way to mend himself too with a deft touch. Ethan's hands glided over the scattered engine components laid out on his workbench, each movement a testament to his skill and familiarity. 2 months following the encounter at Linda's, he had crafted a fresh cadence to his daily life. The garage stood as both a refuge and a realm of intention, a space where dilemmas found straightforward resolutions, where the fractured could be systematically mended. Mike noted, wiping his hands on a shop rag as he approached, that this marked the third classic carburetor rebuild of the month. Whispers of your exceptional craftsmanship spread like wildfire. As Ethan nodded, meticulously tending to the Venturi with a delicate brush. Yesterday, Frank sent over another client, a 1967 Mustang, complete with its original 289 engine. Delightful. Mike rested against the workbench. How is the progress on the house unfolding? Completed the kitchen remodel last weekend. Ethan repositioned his work light. It appears that installing countertops is less complicated than I had anticipated. What Ethan left unsaid was the therapeutic nature of the physical labor involved in tearing out the old countertops that Rachel had always lamented, replacing them with selections he had made himself. Every renovation project transformed into a concrete symbol of his journey toward renewal. After a moment of comfortable silence, Mike remarked, "Thompson called again regarding the buyout. He's offered another 10% on top of his last proposal." Ethan lifted his gaze from the task at hand. "Are you still not intrigued? I had a feeling, but I thought it best to keep you informed." Mike flashed a grin and assured him that Miller's Automotive was here to stay. In Mike's easygoing dialogue, there lay a profound understanding, an acknowledgement that Ethan's journey of healing unfolded through the acts of labor and creation, rather than mere spoken expressions. And the weeks that unfolded after the divorce filing, Mike offered a gentle space, free from pressure, enabling Ethan to navigate his emotions at his own rhythm. As Ethan pieced together the carburetor, a sense of quiet satisfaction washed over him, transcending the mere mechanics of the task. Half a year prior, his universe had crumbled. Now, bit by bit, he was constructing something fresh, not to substitute what had been lost, but to forge something genuine that had never been seen before. "Is the test run scheduled for tomorrow?" Mike inquired, his head tilting toward the almost finished reconstruction. Ethan confirmed that the first thing should purr just like it did back in '65. He had come to realize that certain matters, indeed, could be mended in the end. As Ethan perused the vibrant array of produce at the farmer's market, her voice floated to him, drawing his attention. He glanced back to see Rachel positioned behind him, her expression a blend of anxiety and resolve. Her hair had transformed, now shorter and lighter, and she donned an outfit that was entirely unfamiliar to him. It has been 3 months since their last exchange, a silence that followed the finalization of the divorce papers. "Rachel," he remarked, his tone even, "I didn't anticipate encountering you here. I am aware." She nervously toyed with the strap of her purse. "I have been mustering the bravery to reach out to you. Then I caught sight of you here and I wish to have a conversation with you." Ethan carefully set a tomato into his basket, biding his time while the bustling shoppers flowed around him. "It seems that all words have been exhausted." "Please," she said, stepping closer. "Only coffee. Just a mere 10 minutes. There are certain matters that require clarification." Her eyes possessed that familiar allure that had the power to effortlessly weaken his determination. Yet, after 3 months of contemplation, the essence of Frank's message had become clear to him. Rachel had been nurtured to perceive manipulation as a form of expression. "Rachel," he murmured, "explaining won't alter what has transpired. I am aware of that." Her voice quivered ever so slightly. "However, I have sought the guidance of a therapist. I have been navigating my thoughts with my mother, delving into the reasons behind the choices I made. I have transformed." Ethan gazed at her, recognizing the woman he once adored and the unfamiliar figure who had deceived him. "How's the baby?" he inquired with a calm demeanor. Rachel recoiled. "I experienced a miscarriage. At 10 weeks?" He expressed his regret, his sincerity evident in his voice. "Mom believes it was the stress," she continued hastily. "Once the dust settled and everything crumbled, Bradley sought to distance himself from me entirely." His engagement came to a close as well. Her fingers brushed against his arm. "It is clear that returning is not an option. Yet, I find myself longing for you, Ethan. There is a longing for what we once shared. Perhaps we might consider giving it another shot." Gradually, initially it was merely a bond of friendship. The unspoken request lingered in the air, heavy with unexpressed emotions. For a fleeting instant, Ethan sensed the tug of something known. To choose the easiest route would be to provide solace, to retreat into the familiar role he had once inhabited. He delicately lifted her hand from his arm. "May you find solace and restoration, Rachel. I truly do. Yet, we cannot reconstruct upon a base that was never sturdy from the outset." "Ethan, I need to go," he said, gesturing toward the checkout. "Nurture your well-being." As he strolled away, Ethan experienced neither victory nor rage, only the serene conviction that boundaries were not barriers to exclude others, but rather the bedrock upon which he could construct his own identity. Ethan settled onto a bench outside the market, placing his grocery bags beside him as he pulled out his phone to read a message from Mike regarding the parts delivery. The afternoon of spring unfolded with an exquisite charm. The sun casts its warm glow, while a gentle breeze dances through the air, and the trees stand resplendent in their full bloom along the park that stretches across the street. "Pardon me," a woman's voice interjected. "Does this belong to you?" It lay hidden beneath your bench. He raised his gaze to find a woman in her early 30s, clutching his receipt. Her curly dark hair was gathered in a relaxed ponytail, while her warm brown eyes crinkled gently at the corners. "Thank you," he remarked. Accepting the paper. It would have been quite bothersome to require that for a return. "Not an issue at all. I, too, am a keeper of receipts." She offered a smile, her head tilting slightly as she acknowledged the vacant spot on the bench. "Would you mind if I took a seat for a moment? For the past hour, I have wandered through the bustling market." "Absolutely." Ethan shifted his bags to create some space. With a sigh of relief, she settled into her seat, placing her canvas shopping bag beside her. "At farmers' markets, I find myself indulging beyond measure. The sight of all that fresh produce stirs within me a whimsical notion that I might embark on a nightly journey of crafting elaborate meals." Ethan discovered a smile spreading across his face. "Allow me to take a wild guess. Are there at least 3 vegetables that have eluded your culinary skills thus far?" She chuckled as she confessed, "4, including a curious item known as kohlrabi, which I purchased solely because its name piqued my interest. Remove the skin, cut it into delicate slices, a drizzle of olive oil, and a sprinkle of salt. Roast at 425. Ethan suggested. Her gaze met his, a flicker of astonishment dancing in her eyes. "Do you engage in the art of cooking?" "I am in the process of acquiring knowledge. This is a project that has emerged not long ago." "I'm Sarah," she said, extending her hand. "Ethan." Her handshake conveyed strength and purpose, without a trace of doubt, without any ulterior motives. They slipped into a comfortable dialogue, sharing tales of culinary mishaps, discussing the finest stalls at the market, and weighing the advantages of homemade pasta against its store-bought counterpart. Her straightforwardness had a refreshing quality to it. She laughed freely, posed straightforward questions, and shared little anecdotes about herself with genuine spontaneity. 15 minutes slipped by, and she cast a quick look at her watch. "I ought to be on my way. It's time to put these items in the fridge." "Certainly." She rose to her feet, pausing momentarily. "This may be a bit direct, but would you be interested in grabbing coffee together sometime? A remarkable spot lies just a stone's throw away from here. Perhaps on a Saturday morning." Ethan experienced a fleeting constriction in his chest, a sense of caution shaped by recent encounters. Yet, in Sarah's gaze, he found no trace of Rachel or Linda. Only a genuine curiosity, untainted by ulterior motives. He caught himself uttering, "I'd like that. Saturday is suitable." As she strolled away, having exchanged numbers, Ethan lingered on the bench, absorbing the surprise of their encounter. The fluidity of their dialogue had taken him by surprise. How long had it been since he had engaged in interaction free from any hint of tension? The prospect of forging a connection devoid of ulterior motives stirred a blend of fear and optimism within me. He found himself hesitant to fully embrace trust, not at this moment, yet there lingered a possibility that he might be prepared to take a tentative step ahead. After 3 weeks of coffee dates with Sarah, this moment had finally arrived. Ethan had extended an invitation for dinner at his home, a gesture that carried weight for reasons that transcended the mere act of sharing a meal. As the last bite of the pasta he had crafted disappeared, Ethan realized he stood at a pivotal juncture he had been nearing throughout the evening. "Is there a thought lingering in your mind?" Sarah inquired, placing her wine glass gently on the table. "Your sentences begin with one thought, only to veer off in another direction." Ethan offered a subtle smile. She had observed. Indeed, she had. During their fleeting moments together, he uncovered Sarah's extraordinary talent for perceiving others without casting judgment. At last, he spoke, a weight in his voice, revealing a truth about his past that he could no longer keep hidden. "Before this unfolds any further," Sarah nodded, her expression inviting. I sensed a narrative waiting to unfold. Ethan inhaled deeply. I once entered into the bonds of matrimony. It concluded half a year ago. The words flowed more effortlessly than he had anticipated. My wife engaged in an affair with someone her mother had been encouraging her to pursue long before our wedding day. Then she became pregnant and attempted to claim it was my child. Fully aware that I had undergone a vasectomy, he observed Sarah's expression intently, seeking any signs of shock or pity. In place of interruption, she offered her unwavering focus, allowing him to proceed with his thoughts. It was her mother who deftly orchestrated the entire affair, weaving together the threads of deception and concealment. Upon presenting them with the evidence, the entire facade crumbled. Ethan's voice held a steady cadence. The pain transformed into a dull throb, no longer the piercing torment it had once been. I found it impossible to remain with someone who could engage in such profound deceit. "That's—" Sarah began, then hesitated, weighing her words carefully. "I share this with you because I hold a firm belief in the importance of beginning with honesty," Ethan stated. "As a result of this transformation in my perspective on relationships, I now hold honesty in the highest regard, surpassing nearly all other values." He refrained from voicing his apprehension that Sarah might perceive him in a new light, as flawed or burdened by past experiences, or, even more troubling, that she might doubt his ability to trust due to what he had endured. "I appreciate you sharing that," Sarah murmured softly. Ethan nodded, his fragility suspended in the atmosphere that enveloped them. He had unlocked the gateway to his history. At this moment, he found himself in a state of anticipation, wondering whether she would step through the threshold or turn her back on it entirely. After a moment of silence, Sarah spoke. "My husband died 4 years ago." Ethan lifted his gaze, astonished by the unexpected revelation. "Cancer," she persisted. "Yet, prior to his passing, I unearthed the truth that he had been leading a double existence throughout the majority of our union, that he maintained another family, consisting of a woman and 2 children, in Cincinnati." With a measured sip of wine, her hand remained unwavering. "I discovered the news when the hospital reached out to his wife regarding his condition." "I'm truly sorry, Sarah," Ethan murmured gently. "And it was—" She hesitated, her mind sifting through the tapestry of language for the perfect expression. "The word devastating falls short, for it is not merely the betrayal that stings, but the haunting realization that the individual I believed I understood most intimately has revealed themselves to be, in essence, a complete stranger." Ethan nodded, fully grasping the essence of her words. Sarah continued, stating that once she moved beyond the initial shock and grief, she faced the pivotal choice of who she wished to become in the aftermath. "Bitterness, distrust, and a closed heart beckoned to me. And oh, how I felt the pull of temptation." Their gazes intertwined. "Alternatively, I might opt to glean lessons from it, all the while refusing to allow it to shape my identity." "How did you do that?" Ethan asked. With a hint of humor, she reluctantly confessed. "Therapy proved beneficial, as did the passage of time. In time, I came to understand that Mark's decisions were reflections of his own journey, rather than a commentary on mine. His deceit did not render me foolish for placing my trust in him. It signified that he did not deserve that trust." Ethan sensed a stirring within his chest, an acknowledgement of a journey intertwined with another. "I've been feeling a bit reluctant to dive back into the dating scene," Sarah confessed. "It's not solely due to Mark. Rather, it's the fierce guardianship I feel over the life I have painstakingly reconstructed. I seek an individual who appreciates the significance of truth, even when it is challenging to confront." "That's precisely it," Ethan remarked, leaning in closer. "In the wake of all that transpired with Rachel, a chorus of voices surrounded me, assuring me that I would discover another love, that I would eventually move forward. Yet, the quest was not for a substitute. It was a journey of discovering the true nature of the relationship I desired." With a gentle curve of her lips, Sarah smiled. "A foundation rooted in honesty from the very start." "Even in moments of discomfort," Ethan remarked, "particularly at that moment." Her fingers glided across the table, seeking out his with a gentle touch. "I appreciate you sharing information about Rachel with me. I understand that must have been quite challenging." Ethan felt the tension in his shoulders dissipate in Sarah's perception. He discovered not merely acceptance of his past, but an acknowledgement of the resilience it required to navigate through it. A month had passed, and there they were, Ethan and Sarah, seated at a quaint corner table in Frank's beloved diner, anticipation hanging in the air as they awaited his arrival. Sunday brunch had evolved into their cherished ritual, frequently graced by Frank's presence. "Apologies for my tardiness," Frank declared, as he settled into the booth opposite them, engaged in conversation with Richard Harrison at the parts store. Ethan, the owner of the Porsche, inquired as he handed him a menu. "Indeed, that brings to mind." Frank halted momentarily as the waitress set down the coffee. "Have you heard the news about Linda Prescott Wilson?" Ethan's muscles tightened ever so slightly. "Negative. What of her?" "Harrison's wife serves on a charity board alongside her. It seems that the entire social circle is now aware of the pregnancy scheme." Frank gently swirled sugar into his steaming cup of coffee. "Following your confrontation, Linda's husband reached his breaking point, initiated the process of divorce. She recounted her attempts to all who would lend an ear." Ethan sensed the warmth of Sarah's hand enveloping his beneath the table. "And what of Rachel?" he inquired. He was taken aback by the sense of detachment that enveloped him as he posed the question. "Employed at a marketing agency in Columbus. Harrison reveals that she has severed her relationship with her mother." Frank gave a nonchalant shrug. "It appears that both received precisely what was fitting for them. Inherent outcomes. No need for vengeance." Ethan inclined his head in acknowledgement, analyzing the information devoid of the emotional weight it previously held. "I trust she will discover her path," he stated with simplicity. The dialogue turned towards Frank's latest restoration endeavor. As they strolled through the park following their brunch, Sarah revisited the topic once more. "What are your thoughts on the recent news?" she inquired, her arm entwined with his. Ethan pondered the question. "I believe I feel a sense of relief. Not due to their suffering, but rather because I am not the one tasked with delivering consequences." The truth revealed itself effortlessly. With a subtle nod, Sarah acknowledged the moment. "That was the sensation that washed over me upon learning that Mark's other family had taken legal action against his estate. I found no necessity to seek justice. It discovered its own path." They paused at the lake, observing the ducks as they gracefully glided over the shimmering surface. "I once believed that relationships resembled engines," Ethan remarked thoughtfully, "by adhering to the manual and performing the necessary maintenance. All systems function seamlessly as intended. Yet they are far from being mere machines." "What are they, then?" Sarah inquired, her head gently resting against his shoulder. "Rather akin to gardens. They require a solid foundation, unwavering attention, and an abundance of patience." He pivoted to meet her gaze, "and a thorough candor regarding what you are sowing." With a knowing smile, Sarah grasped the metaphor's essence. "I like that," she said. "Genuine underpinnings." 1 year after the fateful encounter at Linda's dining table, Ethan found himself in his workshop, meticulously applying the final coat of varnish to the rocking chair he had crafted from rich cherry wood. Afternoon sunlight poured through the windows he had meticulously installed, creating a tapestry of warmth across the gleaming concrete floor. The garage had slowly evolved into a true woodworking studio, a realm where the shattered were not merely mended, but where entirely new wonders could emerge from the remnants. "It's beautiful," Sarah remarked, her figure framed by the doorway. She had mastered the art of moving through his creative realm, careful not to disturb the flow of his concentration, recognizing that his hands were engaged in their craft while his mind unraveled the complexities of existence. Ethan's hand glided over the sleek surface of the chair, a piece destined for Frank's granddaughter, who would arrive tomorrow to collect it for her baby's nursery. With a graceful stride, Sarah traversed the room, her fingers gliding along the gentle contour of the backrest. "What truly captivates me about your work? All that you create stands on remarkably sturdy ground." He regarded the observation with a smile. Once, that word, foundations, had embodied all that he had lost. That moment, it embodied all that he had discovered. I've been pondering recently on the lessons I've gathered, Ethan remarked, placing his brush down. When Rachel's deception was unveiled, I believed I was merely losing a marriage. I was unaware that I was, in fact, discovering my true self. In what way? Sarah inquired, settling herself on his workbench. The most difficult reality was not her betrayal of me. It was the realization that I had been prepared to sacrifice my own dignity in the name of preserving harmony. He motioned toward the chair, reminiscent of employing flimsy fasteners on exquisite timber. It may appear appealing at first glance, yet it is unlikely to endure through the ages. Sarah inclined her head, lost in contemplation. Truth transcends mere honesty towards others. It is a profound truth within oneself, recognizing what you truly need and what you rightfully deserve. Precisely. Boundaries are not synonymous with walls. They are the very bedrock. Ethan settled beside her, their shoulders brushing against each other in a familiar ease. They do not exclude individuals. They define the nature of the relationship that can be forged. Outside, spring had gracefully unfolded its vibrant tapestry. New growth, evident through the workshop windows, mirrored Ethan's journey as his life transitioned from the depths of winter to a vibrant rebirth, from devastation to a careful reconstruction. He spoke softly, reflecting on the most profound lesson from that difficult period. When the weight of truth dismantles a falsehood, it opens up a fertile ground for authenticity to flourish. Sarah's hands sought his, their fingers weaving together effortlessly. In that gentle contact resided all that he had once deemed unattainable, a trust restored, not in spite of past scars, but owing to the insights those scars had imparted to them both. The rocking chair awaited its new abode, a palpable testament to the artistry that emerges from diligent craftsmanship rooted in sincerity.